Okay, everyone. So we are going to start back up again on the last line of page 39. So make sure you're there with me. Our focus for these pages: one, how does George feel about being alone? And he kind of hints at it with some words. So kind of focus on that. Also, how is Lenny? How is Lenny's innocence juxtaposed with his violence? So remember, this juxtaposes when you put two things next to each other. So how does the author juxtapose Lenny's innocence with his violence? Think about that as we read these last few pages. So again, if you're in your novel, we're on the very last line of 39, going on to page 40 at It Ain't So Funny. So this was right after Slim had just said that it was kind of funny that him and Lenny traveled together. It ain't so funny. Him and me go around together, George said at last. Him and me was both born in Auburn. I know his Aunt Clara. She took him when he was a baby and raised him up. When his Aunt Clara died, Lenny just come along with me out working. Got kind of used to each other after a little while. Said Slim. George looked over at Slim and saw the calm, godlike eyes fastened on him. Funny, said George. I used to have a hell of a lot of fun with him. Used to play jokes on him because he was too dumb to take care of himself. But he was too dumb even to know he had a joke played on him. Oh, I had fun. Made me seem gosh dang smart alongside of him. Why, he'd do any damn thing I told him. If I told him to walk over a cliff, over he'd go. That wasn't so damn much fun after a while. He never got mad about it neither. I beat the hell out of him, and he could have bust every bone in my body just with his hands, but he never lifted a finger against me. George's voice was taking on the tone of confession. Tell you what made me stop that. One day, a bunch of guys was standing round up on the Sacramento River. I was feeling pretty smart. I turns to Lenny and I says, jump in. And he jumps. Couldn't swim a stroke. He damn near drowned before we could get him. And he was so damn nice to me for pulling him out. Clean forgot I told him to jump in. Well, I ain't done nothing like that no more. He's a nice fella, said Slim. Guys don't need no sense to be nice fella. Seems to me sometimes it just works the other way around. Take a real smart guy and he ain't hardly ever a nice fella. George stacked the scattered cards and began to lay out his solitaire hand. The shoes thudded on the ground outside. At the windows, the light of the evening still made the window squares bright. I ain't got no people, George said. I seen the guys that go around on the ranches alone. They ain't no good. They don't have no fun. And after a long time, they get mean. They get wanting to fight all the time. Yeah, they get mean, Slim agreed. They get so they don't want to talk to nobody. Of course, Lenny's a gosh dang nuisance most of the time, said George. But you get used to going around with a guy and you can't get rid of him. Well, he ain't mean, said Slim. I can see Lenny ain't a bit mean. Of course he ain't mean. But he gets in trouble all the time because he's so gosh dang dumb. Like what happened in Weed. He stopped. Stopped in the middle of turning over a card. He looked alarmed and peered over at Slim. You wouldn't tell nobody. What did he do in Weed? Slim asked calmly. You wouldn't tell. No, of course you wouldn't. What did he do in Weed? Slim asked again. Well, he seen this girl in a red dress. Dumb bastard like he is, he wants to touch everything he likes. He just wants to feel it. So he reaches out to feel this red dress, and the girl lets out a squawk. And that gets Lenny all mixed up. And he holds on because that's the only thing he can think to do. Well, this girl squawks and squawks. I was just a little bit off, and I heard all the yelling, so I comes running. By the time Lenny's so scared, all he can do is just hold on. I socked him over the head with a fence picket to make him let go. He was so scared he couldn't let go of that dress. And he's so gosh dang strong, you know? Slim's eyes were level and unwinking. He nodded very slowly. So what happens? George carefully built his line of solitaire cards. Well, that girl rabbits in and tells the law that she's been raped. The guys in Weed start a party out to lynch Lenny. If you're unfamiliar, lynch means essentially like brutally murder. So we sit in an irrigation ditch underwater all the rest of the day. Got on our heads sticking out of water and up under the grass that sticks out from the side of the ditch. And that night we scrammed out of there. Slim sat in silence for a moment. Didn't hurt the girl none, huh? He asked finally. Hell no. He just scared her. I'd be scared too if he grabbed me. But he never hurt her. He just wanted to touch that red dress. like he wants to pet them pups all the time. He ain't mean, said Slim. I can tell a mean guy a mile off. Of course he ain't. And he'll do any damn thing Lenny came in through the door. He wore his blue denim coat over his shoulder like a cape, and he walked hunched way over. Hi, Lenny, said George. How you like the pup now? Lenny said breathlessly, He's brown and white, just like I want it. He went directly to his bunk and lay down and turned his face to the wall and drew up his knees. George put down his cards very deliberately. Lenny, he said sharply. Lenny twisted his neck and looked over his shoulder. Huh? What you want, George? I told you couldn't bring that pup in here. What pup, George? I ain't got no pup. George went quickly to him, grabbed him by the shoulder, rolled him over. He reached down and picked the tiny pup from where Lenny had been concealing it against his stomach. Lenny sat up quickly. Give him to me, George. George said, You get right up and take this pup back to the nest. He's got to sleep with his mother. You want to kill him? Just born last night. You take him out of the nest? You take him back, or I'll tell Slim not to let you have him. Lenny held out his hands pleadingly. Give him to me, George. I'll take him back. I didn't mean no harm, George. Honest, I didn't. I just wanted to pet him a little. George handed the pup to him. All right. You get him back there quick, and don't you take him out no more. You'll kill him. The first thing you know. Lenny fairly scuttled out of the room. Slim had not moved. His calm eyes followed Lenny out the door. Jesus, he said. He's just like a kid, ain't he? Okay, everyone, so we are going to read this little short passage about a card game. If you are not familiar, this card game is called Solitaire. So Solitaire is a game you can play alone. All you need is a deck of cards. Another name for the Solitaire card game is Patience. There are variations on this game, but most involving sorting cards into suits by ranking numbers, like King, Queen, Jack, 10. The Latin root at the heart of this lonely word is solitarius, alone or isolated is what that word means. So solitaire literally translates to alone or isolated. So question to you. Why might it be significant that George begins playing solitaire as he explains why he and Lenny travel together? So if you remember, he talked about how him and Lenny have been together since they were young kids. Lenny just kind of followed him one day, and they've just been together ever since. So why might it be significant that he's playing this solitaire game while he explains how him and Lenny travel together? Answer in 1 to 2 sentences now. So, solitaire may represent isolation or loneliness. George seems to fear isolation and loneliness more than he fears the legal and logistical troubles that a life with Lenny sometimes presents. So it's almost ironic in the sense that he's playing a game that literally translates to alone or isolated, but truly he is afraid of being alone and isolated. And even though Lenny is a big headache for him sometimes, he would rather handle that than handling life on his own. Okay, so just to recount, George finally shares the full story of what happened to him and Lenny when they were at their old jobs in a city called Weeds. He tells a story about how Lenny sees a girl with a dress, and it's not the girl that Lenny's interested in, it's just the soft dress that she's wearing. So he goes and he grabs it just to feel it, and she kind of yelled and tried to get away from him, and when she started flailing around, he panicked and he didn't know what to do, so he just grabbed the dress harder, and he held on to it. She kept screaming, but he didn't let go because he didn't know what to do. He just kind of locked up and froze up, and then eventually she went and told people that he had sexually assaulted her, and then they were kind of forced to go into hiding and leave the city. So some questions to you. Why might Steinbeck, the author, have chosen to include the memory of the girl in Weed? So that whole story. What do we learn about Lenny's character through this story? Answer that in 2 to 3 sentences now. Okay, so the reader understands that Lenny is innocent. He just wanted to feel the dress. But his innocence leads him into criminal or villainous scenarios. He doesn't know his own strength, power, or how he might be perceived by others. This makes him both dangerous and vulnerable at the same time. Okay, so pulling back into this idea of juxtaposition. For question 5B, George orders Lenny to take Slim's pup back to its mother, for fear Lenny will kill the young animal. How does the scene further develop the dangerous juxtaposition of Lenny's innocence and violence? In other words, how is innocence and violence being compared or being juxtaposed in this scene? And what is that showing us? Answer that in 1 to 3 sentences now. So Lenny is both innocent and strong, which routinely places him in situations where he hurts or kills the things he loves, often resulting in violence. George fears that his enthusiasm for the young pup, as innocent as it is, may result in the dog actually dying. So you see how innocent he is when these scenarios are described, but you also see how dangerous and violent he can be because he's so innocent and doesn't really know what's going on. Harper says, "Go do your exit ticket. Go do it." Yes, please do it.